Okay? That is a huge component. Bari Weiss and the Ellisons are massive, rabid Zionists by their own admission. And the deal even took place according to the Redstones. Like the fact that 60 Minutes and CBS News was sold off to the Ellisons was specifically because, all right, now we are going to talk about perhaps the most consequential news story of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, this is something that I've been talking about for a while at this point because they were saying that this was going to eventually happen, and it's finally here. Trigger warning, bovine Bari Weiss, okay? Trigger warning. One of my ops is getting elevated to a higher position of power that she does not deserve. Why? Because she's pro-Israel. Okay. How does she rise to such prominence? Brown-nosing incredibly wealthy billionaires and attacking all of the wealthy billionaires' critics. How else? How else do you get elevated to a position of prominence in mainstream media nowadays? She basically looked at manufacturing consent and read it as a how-to. Now we talk about like filters and self-censorship that the media engages in an effort to be elevated, in an effort to reach higher positions of prominence. She saw that and was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. I should just be out with it. Like I should be outwardly of incredibly wealthy billionaires and attack all of these incredibly wealthy billionaires' enemies and critics. And she has basically had a incredible career of failing upwards while demonstrating zero talent. Okay, whether it be in the New York Times or she made her stupid unaccredited Institute of Higher Learning, Austin University. She's just the ass kisser of people in power. That's it. She has presented herself in the same way. Like she is identical to Ben Shapiro, except instead of trying to build an independent media franchise, she did the Ben Shapiro route on mainstream news. And she also had a lesbian background. So she weaponized that pretty hard to make it seem as though she was somewhat more liberal than the average social conservative, right? She found that perfect frequency that wealthy social libertarians appreciate, where she very famously once said, I still remember, in I think it was in a Heritage Foundation seminar that she was talking at, where she said, look, I'm a lesbian, and there are plenty of people in this room that would not want me to marry my life partner. But none of it matters, because every single person in this room unifies. Oh, it was a Federalist Society. Okay, thank you. Here's the quote. I'm going to read it verbatim. I know that there are some people in this room who don't believe that my marriage should have been legal, Ms. Weiss told the Federalist Society, an influential conservative legal group, in 2023. And that's okay, because we're all Americans who want lower taxes. This guy had a good article on Defector Media on Bari Weiss. Here's a great way to summarize who Bari Weiss is. What makes the free press an attractive prize for Ellison is his choice of enemies, or, to engage in a smidge of Weissian anti-writing, whom it never goes after. The free press only punches down and to the left, never at those who hold real power, but lustily at their critics and adversaries. If you are a billionaire buying a media organization in order to consolidate your power, you could not find a more eager servant than Weiss, someone blissfully captured by the richest people alive and invested in smashing the last vestiges of liberal power in this country: universities, civil servants, and the media. She has a cop's heart and a tadpole's brain, which makes her the ideal partner for someone like David Ellison, Larry Ellison's fail son. And now, this dipshit is placed directly in charge of CBS News. with an artificially elevated status, once again, because she has sucked up to the incredibly wealthy billionaire class and also consistently defended Israel. And now she's being rewarded for it. David Ellison, Larry Ellison's son, purchased CBS and then moved on to purchase the Free Press. And in the process of purchasing Free Press, David Ellison artificially boosted the value of the Free Press, which many of you might recall is one of my ops, to $150 million. Okay. Now, does the Free Press actually have any significant output that is worthy of $150 million? Of course not. Of course not. But that was the point. The point was, in my opinion, to show the rest of the media watchers, the rest of the journalists, that if you suck up to the billionaires and you suck up to Israel, we will pay you, we will bribe you, and we will elevate you to a position of higher prominence that you do not deserve. Bari Weiss is now going to be the editor-in-chief of CBS News, accountable to nobody except for David Ellison. Timestamp PBS realizing that Ellison, the Ellisons are buying up the media. Yeah, I like that. I like that this has been such an aggressive and egregious consolidation of media by the Ellison family that you even have PBS in an uncharacteristic fashion ringing the alarm bells, partially because I suspect that public broadcasting is also directly undermined and underfunded by the Trump administration.
Landscape here now, because when you look at the Ellison family here, right, you have Larry Ellison, the father of David Ellison, who's the founder of Oracle. He's a strong Trump supporter as well. He's also now among the investors in this newly configured American version of TikTok. The family's also aiming to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery. This father-son duo now controls huge swaths of the media, both in social media and in Hollywood and on television. How does that change the landscape?
Yeah, these are the new media titans. Like you said, they already control Paramount, which means they control CBS News, the Paramount Pictures studio, and now they are, to my...
Yeah, Paramount's also obviously releasing a October 7 flick tomorrow, right? I believe it's coming out tomorrow if it hasn't come out yet. It's about October 7, 2023. Very obviously, they're just trying to quickly push pro-Israel narratives. It's just, are you going to watch it on stream? No.
Understanding, according to sources, preparing a bid for Warner Brothers Discovery, which obviously has the Brothers studio, controls HBO Max, and also has CNN. And so what you could see soon is David Ellison and his son, Larry Ellison and his son, David Ellison, controlling a large part of how Americans absorb the information from around the world, the news, as well as entertainment. They could own TikTok, they could own Paramount, they could own Warner.
Now, Oliver Darcy is nailing it. Now, of course, they're not saying the quiet part out loud, which is that this is done not only to boost or try to launder Trump's reputation as long as Trump plays ball with the Ellisons, but also to launder the reputation of Israel. Okay? That is a huge component. Bari Weiss and the Ellisons are massive, rabid Zionists by their own admission. And the deal even took place according to the Redstones. Like the fact that 60 Minutes and CBS News was sold off to the Ellisons was specifically because the Redstones were frustrated, the previous owners, were frustrated with how critical 60 Minutes was of Israel because of the one time that they covered what's going on in Gaza halfway decently, months after the fact, where they said American bombs are killing children in Gaza. And this is not a secret. Like, they openly stated it. Every party involved has openly mentioned their interest in making CBS News and 60 Minutes more pro-Israel. This is not a secret. This is not like, oh, Jews control the media type like anti-Semitic conspiracies. This is very straightforward. Okay? And what's interesting to me, at least, is that at least like, you know, PBS is talking about the consolidation and its like obvious impact. But with NPR, they're not even mentioning what the reason is. Here's David Folkenflik. Bari Weiss will be editor-in-chief of CBS News as Skydance set to announce acquisition of Free Press. What does it mean for CBS? My story and chat with Steve Inskeep on NPR's Morning Edition. This article has one mention of Israel, zero mention of Bari's self-admitted rabid Zionism, the Zionism of the billionaire behind the deal, the internal reporting on Gaza, and no mention of the atrocity denial that the Free Press regularly engaged in. And I think that is by design. They're totally ass covering for one of the most significant components of why this deal is taking place to begin with. Zero mentions of Israel in this story, says Hamid Bendas, even though the former chief of Paramount, Sherry Redstone, said in August her shakeup at CBS was about making the network more pro-Israel. Like, look at this. Sherry Redstone hoped Trump's 60 Minutes lawsuit would root out anti-Israel bias at CBS News, and she sold Paramount partly over October 7. New York Times' coverage does not mention this at all. Paramount buys the Free Press, ushering a new era at CBS News. Bari Weiss, the founder of the Free Press, will become editor-in-chief of CBS News. It is so crazy. This is exactly what we are talking about when we say mainstream press is losing its credibility. I'm sorry. You mean to tell me there were 3 journalists, okay, 3 media reporters on the story, on the byline, and not a single one was even remotely curious about the self-admitted perspective of Sherry Redstone or the Ellisons or Bari Weiss on the 60 Minutes saga, or even on the self-described ultra-Zionist perspectives of all of the parties involved? Really? That's not even remotely interesting at a time when the leader of a foreign nation on U.S. soil openly talks about how wonderful it is that TikTok is now being sold to a pro-Israel billionaire and how important a weapon it is to control social media. Really? For those that don't know, this is the impeccable journalism of Bari Weiss. Yeah. Twitch star Hasan Piker just received a glowing profile in the New York Times. He also calls Jews inbred, says it doesn't matter if rape occurred on October 7, and argues that Zionists should be treated like neo-Nazis. Now, this was my favorite article ever written about me, if we're being real, especially because most of the article actually revolves around how fucking hot I am. The handsome face of terror apologia. It's awesome. Yeah. Paramount is about to pay $150 million for this. My favorite actress is not human. Tilly Norwood doesn't need a hairstylist, has no regrettable posts, and if you wish to see a virgin on screen, this is one of your better chances. That's because she's AI. This is an article for only one audience. This is not an article written for a real public interest. This is an article written for the billionaires that are invested in AI. Okay? That is exactly how the free press operates. Ironically enough, they're not so free, right? They are writing these articles to make billionaires who are invested in AI to think, oh, there is a real opportunity for propaganda here, and there's a real readership around articles such as this. It's not. You will never, in a million fucking years, find an average person in the real world who saw the AI Hollywood actress being unveiled and went, oh, that's awesome. I love that, actually. No, this is for no one. This is just for billionaires to look at, people who are invested in AI to look at and go, oh, this is good. I like this. Not trying to gatekeep, but I think it's actually really essential sleight of hand here. Bari Weiss is not a reporter. She has never done any reporting in her life and is only a journalist, in air quotes. in the expanded definition that includes opinion journalists. She, like me, is a pundit, and like myself as well. Okay? An important sleight of hand, because once one establishes she is not a reporter in any sense, one is compelled to ask why a pundit is being put in charge of a news division. There is a reason. It's because she'll push reporting to reflect Ellison's pro-Israel ideology. Yes, she sent a message as the new editor-in-chief of CBS News to all CBS News employees. It goes as follows. Dear colleagues, I'm thrilled and humbled to be writing to you as the new editor-in-chief of CBS News. Growing up, CBS was a deep family tradition. Whenever I hear that tick, 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 or that trumpet fanfare, it sends me right back to our den in Pittsburgh. The opportunity to build on that legacy with you and to renew it in an era that so desperately needs it is an extraordinary privilege. Right now, I imagine you have some questions. I do too. My goal in the coming days and weeks is to get to know you. I want to hear from you about what's working, what isn't, and your thoughts on how we can make CBS News the most trusted news organization in America and around the world. I'll approach it the way any reporter would, with an open mind, a fresh notebook, and an urgent deadline. Can you imagine if the reporters came up to her and were like, hey, a big part of the reason why we're losing our fucking our credibility is because people think we're like, serving the interests of a foreign nation state, Israel. And I think we could do a lot better reporting on that front and talk about the genocide openly. I assume she would probably fire those people, right? She would fire those people instantly. What I can tell you on day one is that I stand for the same core journalistic values that have defined this profession since the beginning, and I will continue to champion them alongside you. 1, journalism that reports on the world as it actually is. 1, journalism that is fair, fearless, and factual. Once again, journalism that is fair, fearless, and factual. Hasan Piker has been called a model for the future of progressive media. He also calls Jews inbred and says Zionists should be treated like neo-Nazis. That's the journalism that's fair, free, and factual. Or who could forget some better free press articles like there is no genocide in Gaza, or some more choice free press articles. There is no famine in Gaza. Incredible stuff. The Gaza famine myth. 3, journalism that respects their audience enough to tell the truth plainly, wherever it leads. 4, journalism that makes sense of a noisy, confusing world. Journalism that explains things clearly without presentation or jargon, or pretension and jargon. Journalism that holds both American political parties to equal scrutiny. Journalism that embraces a wide, you know what that means. Oh, I love that. That's my favorite. I have a question for the crowd here. I have a question for the chat here. Have you ever talked to someone that presented themselves as a centrist who revealed themselves to actually be someone of leftist background? Anyone that openly says they're apolitical or a centrist is always a right-wing figure ashamed of their perspective, or a right-wing figure that's unashamed of their perspective, but simply wants to propagandize a right-wing position under the auspices of objectivity. I've never met someone who's like, I'm a centrist, and then it turned out that they were like a left-wing person. Never, ever, ever. They are always right-wing. No, they don't exist. Centrism is 3 different types of people who are tuned out, people who have partisan beliefs on both sides, and like 5 clowns who think the government is working perfectly. Obviously, when I talk about someone who is a self-described centrist but might actually have leftist values or whatever, I'm not talking about the average person, because the average person is not exactly well equipped to tackle politics. They don't really understand the world. I'm talking about in the professional media sphere. In the professional media sphere, when someone says they're a centrist, know that they are a right-winger. Okay? That's it. Anyway, going forward, journalism that holds both American political parties to equal scrutiny, as we joked about. Journalism that embraces a wide spectrum of views and voices so that the audience can contend with the best arguments on all sides of a debate. Journalism that rushes towards the most interesting and important stories, regardless of their own popularity. Yeah, that's the Israel position here. It's unpopular to be pro-Israel, but we will be uncompromisingly pro-Israel. Journalism that uses all the tools in the digital era. Journalism that understands the best way to serve America is to endeavor to present the public with facts, first and foremost. I look forward to meeting many of you, blah, 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 all this shit, right? Anyway, it is very obvious what's taking place here. And yet, The media is once again dropping the ball. Perhaps it is on purpose. Here is Prem talking about Larry Ellison and the role that his son played in the purchasing and the placement of Bari Weiss atop the CBS News editorial control.
I wanted to tell you about something wild happening in plain sight. The second richest man on earth.
I know this is like seemingly so self-aggrandizing, too self-involved in the media narratives. A lot of people tune out when they hear this shit, but this is unimaginably important. Okay? This is unimaginably important. They are specifically targeting and eliminating any avenue of discontent. I know it sounds boring as fuck until it actually happens, until you start noticing the impact. But at that point, it'll be far too late. I fucking spent months and months of coverage on this shit. Nobody gave a fuck. Anyway, here are some, several CBS News employees, by the way, spoke to a Guardian reporter, said they are in wait and see mode. One was more blunt. A throwing up emoji is not enough of a reflection of the feelings here. Bari Weiss be like, tell me who that fucking person is so I can fire them. They should care, it will affect them. They think that they will also be dogs and loyal servants of the billionaire class, and then they won't be punished. Yeah, I know. Candace leaked a text message from Charlie Kirk to go back to the same like Israel killed Charlie Kirk narratives after that shit was losing steam. Let's watch the Prem video real quick, and then we'll get to that.
A very pro-Israel Republican and his son are on the brink of taking over a huge chunk of the media landscape, including TikTok, all at once. Meet Larry Ellison, the second richest man in the world. At a 2014 fundraiser packed with pro-Israel billionaires, Ellison said there is no greater honor than supporting the Israeli military. In 2017, he donated over $16 million to Friends of the IDF, the largest gift they had ever received. Larry also has a relationship with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has been a guest at Ellison's private island. Now, Larry's company, Oracle, is set to be part of the ownership group that will take over TikTok in a deal Donald Trump just announced. Oracle will oversee TikTok's algorithm. All the while, Larry's son, David Ellison, recently merged his company, Skydance Media, with Paramount Global, which means the Ellison father and son duo now control CBS News, Paramount Plus, and major Hollywood studios, and could be on their way to overseeing TikTok. David, the son, is also reportedly acquiring this online magazine called The Free Press, an outlet known for being very pro-Israel and founded by a woman named Bari Weiss. Under the deal, Bari Weiss is reportedly set to become editor-in-chief of CBS News. Here's why this matters. The Free Press, again, is very pro-Israel, to the point that they recently published a story that seeks to discount the starvation conditions happening in Gaza.
Cha-ching. That'll be $150 million for that incredible coverage, the bold reporting, the boldness required to actively deny a genocide. That's what we want. We need that. We need more pro-Israel voices in mainstream news because it's often underrepresented. That's what I was thinking. How do we look at a crisis of credibility that is that every legacy publisher is facing in this moment? How do we address that crisis of credibility? We bring in more overtly pro-Israel voices, and we say we're doing that specifically for this foreign nation state and their grand ambition to ethnically cleanse the population, the indigenous population, an aberration that must be forcibly excised from the land. This is how we do it. We bring back credibility.
The story argued that since some of the kids who have died of starvation might have had other diseases or injuries, that undermines the idea that Israel is mass starving Palestinians. Netanyahu himself, again an internationally accused war criminal, tweeted about the story approvingly. Sources inside CBS have told me that they would never get away with the kinds of editorial standards and norms that Bari Weiss and the Free Press maintain. And yet Bari Weiss is now possibly going to lead coverage at CBS. And it doesn't even stop there. Larry Ellison, the dad, is reportedly also eyeing acquiring Warner Brothers Discovery, which owns CNN, HBO, DC Studios, and of course Warner Brothers Studios. If that goes through, the Ellisons would control two of America's biggest cable news networks in CNN and CBS, major streaming platforms in HBO and Paramount Plus, massive Hollywood studios, a media outlet that's earned the approval of Benjamin Netanyahu, and of course, TikTok. This is not just about owning media companies. It's about controlling the narrative pipeline, the stories, images, and info that you consume every day. This isn't happening in secret. A media empire is being built that could decide what you get to see and what you don't.
Awesome. Fucking awesome. Anyway, this was funny. Bari Weiss's big announcement of her move to Paramount and take over CBS News, made on the main YouTube channel, The Free Press, has a grand total of 16,000 views after 8 hours. The good news is that it's their most watched video since she interviewed the Mossad 2 weeks ago. Again, worth 150 million because it's not about actually reaching a broader audience. Okay? In her letter today, the CBS News editor-in-chief warns about the American loathing far left and its growing influence in politics and media. If I were working under her new leadership at CBS News, I would send Israel First-in-Chief Bari Weiss a map showing that Israel is not America. The irony, of course, is if Bari Weiss is worth $150 million, I'm worth, what, $1 billion? Yeah, be on the lookout for the record for more Fuck Hasan hit pieces coming from CBS News in the immediate future. This was funny. John Podhoretz, a couple notes about Bari Weiss' announcement today of the joining together of the FP and Paramount. First, it makes the Free Press and is an entirely organic success, which is so funny. It's the exact opposite. It was like literally propped up by billionaires. Bari didn't know this was what she was going to do when she quit the Times, and it was actually built slowly. Slowly, by which I mean she did it with 3 other people, including her wife and her sister, and then let the response to it dictate its growth. Like any great startup, it moved with the consumers who were responding to it and made its own market. Most importantly, the raging envy and ideological hostility of wannabe bearists like Dylan Byers and the other new media critics has made it seem as though the rumored $150 million purchase was some sort of weird politicized bribe from rich boy David Ellison to Bari. Oh no. In her announcement video, Bari says the Free Press has 1.5 million subscribers. Those subscribers pay $10 a month or $120 a year. Do the math. That's more than $150 million in revenue. This guy is such a fucking idiot. Now, maybe those 1.5 million aren't all paying or have cheaper deals or are, the deal is a major validation for Ms. Weiss, whose Free Press has amassed more than 170,000 paying subscribers, which I still don't believe, okay? And roughly 1.5 million readers overall with its heterodox editorial approach and opinion columns on business. The 1.5 million subscribers is YouTube subscribers. John Podhoretz is so fucking stupid. Yeah, they claim that they have 170,000 paying subscribers. Okay? The 1.5 million subscribers is on the channel, not paying subscribers. Mods, please hide this post for being unhelpful. Our P/E ratio is very reasonable, 100,000 to 500,000, depending on whether people consider the date missions in Peace Walker canon or not. We try to err on the side of caution when we say our show is worth $2 trillion. Yeah, you know who loves this? Tony Double Cirque. Double Cirque Tony is going to love working under Bovine Barry.